Like always, I have been very upbeat about Indian agriculture. I feel that we can unlock a lot of growth in this sector. The sheer scale is such that small improvements result in 10, 20, 30,000 crores in no time. And I think this is something which I would like to show here in my presentation. A few slides will talk about some background. So we have done well. Last 5 years have been years of plenty, and we have come of age. Actually, in spite of 2 droughts, we were always surplus in production. We are the largest producer of milk, largest exporter of beef, second largest producer of fish, wheat, paddy, third largest producer of eggs in the world. So this is very good going. Most of our kudos definitely come from the animal protein industry. The most neglected industry by the government has performed the best. So it also speaks about when the government is involved, what happens. And scale is very important. We have the largest arable land, largest cattle population, so one should not be surprised when we show these numbers, in spite of low productivity. The population employed is also very high. You can see 47% people right now are employed in agriculture, which is almost half the population. And scale alone will not help us, because in spite of the fact that we have huge acreages, you can see the kind of inflation we have in fruits and vegetables in the past. All of us have gone through that. A little bit of disturbance in monsoon results in big increases in the price of essential commodities. And inflation, since the weightage is very high in that basket for animal protein, with this, you can see the kind of contribution animal protein has made in food inflation in 2011-12. It was almost 65%. And once the animal protein prices have come down, the food inflation has also tanked. I think this is the magic of animal protein in the food inflation in the past. So increased demand for food and value-added products is going to be there because population is growing. Population is becoming rich, and our per capita consumption in almost everything, whether it is vegetable protein, animal protein, fat, etc., is much lower than the world average. So I think we will be in business for a long, long time. Area under agriculture not likely to grow, and most of it has to come from productivity improvements. And you can see that agri GDP as a total GDP is dropping, and if we have to maintain that, we have to maintain that same proportion of 13–14%. We will have to add a lot of value through innovation and food processing, which can be a great drivers for this sector. So 9 things I would like to outline here, which we have worked upon, and we believe that in case steps are taken in this direction, we can maintain a GDP growth, agri GDP growth rate of between 3 to 4% in time to come consistently. First is better input management at the farms, micro irrigation, GM seeds, right fertilizer mix, very critical. We have seen that irrigated land is only about 43% of the total land. This data is a little dated. We only take data which is published. Today, government is talking between 43 to 44%. And you can see that some of the states which are agriculturally very, very advanced, like Maharashtra, Karnataka, the total irrigated area is much lower than the total arable land. And in spite of a 20–30,000 crore investment in irrigation in Maharashtra, you can see 83% of agri land in Maharashtra is still rain-fed. How much are we spending? I think the earlier presenter also outlined the apathy government has on certain projects at the grassroots level. You can see the credit disbursement by NABARD for minor irrigation projects has been abysmally 1% for micro irrigation. So what does it do? You pull out more water, so water table goes down. Then you have poor productivity of crop. Then what do? You offset irrigation stress. You put more fertilizer, so you add to the subsidy and you add to soil deterioration. And adverse impact on livelihoods. So you can see what happens when livelihood of farmers is affected, going by the number of suicides which have started happening over past few years. Unfortunately, whatever people may say, and a lot of speakers have said that, whenever we want to look for stories which have been successful, particularly in the agri sector, I think Gujarat is a showcase state. So Gujarat realized this very early, 2005, and they did not do it through the normal government department. The agriculture department of all governments is the worst department one can work with. So they set up a new company called the Gujarat Green Revolution Company Limited, GGRCL, and it was indeed a pleasure to study what they do. And they are the disbursement agency for micro irrigation in Gujarat. It works like a private company. One IAS officer is the managing director of that company. So they use third-party audits. Online application is done by the farmers. Then the audit is done of the field. When it is approved, they release 50% of the subsidy which the center gives. And then with that, they ask for the design from the drip irrigation company. The drip irrigation company's design is approved by this company. It is set up, then they release, after 2 months, after seeing that drip irrigation is working, then they release the rest 40% subsidy which is there. I think one of the most fantastic disbursement of subsidy regimes which I have seen is Gujarat and through this company, and you can see that the difference it has made in Gujarat in 10 years from 2 lakh hectares, they have gone to almost 1 million hectares, and now I have heard that they are adding almost 150,000 to 200,000 hectares every year in this scheme. And look at what it has done to productivity. Potato, almost double, and pulses almost double, and potato, it's almost 50–60% improvement which has happened. What will surprise you is that just because, actually, potato is a wonderful crop because raw potato is water, and when you make wafers, you are carrying air. And Gujarat has become the place where almost 25–30% of the country's wafers are being made now, and potato products are being made now. It is so amazing that I visited some areas in Surendranagar district where farmers have contract with the wafer companies. As a student of agriculture 20 years ago, whatever was the hectare productivity, just by drip irrigation and modern methods of farming, people were getting the same output in an acre. That is the kind of improvement which has been made through this scheme in Gujarat. It was simply amazing, and I am sure that if this is adopted, I think it can change the fortunes in Indian agriculture. You will be really surprised that the kind of subsidies we give for fertilizer and food, and the kind of subsidies we give for a proven technology that micro irrigation is. Fertilizer subsidy is about 70–80,000 crores. Food subsidy is even more. 2014, center gave 282 crores to micro irrigation. Add to what state gives, so total subsidy was close to about 500 crores. The kind of value it adds in the Indian agri space and the kind of subsidy which is given is a big mismatch. GM seeds, most debated topic. GM seeds and hybridization is very similar technology. In GM seeds, we use a gun to insert a gene. So that is not done in hybridization. Hybridization is mixing 2 varieties and getting an offspring. But you have to buy the offspring every time because you cannot produce yourself. In India, wheat, no hybridization. Paddy, 12% hybrid is there. In maize, 60%. Vegetables, 60%. Cotton is a great story, 95%. Sorghum, 95%. Sunflower, 95%. Wherever hybridization has increased or GM has come, like in cotton, the yields have more than doubled. Key issues: low productivity from existing variety, excessive usage of pesticide to fight pests. Cotton is the crop which was using 50% of the insecticides we were using in this country. Now, and just because of GM seeds, the pesticide industry went through a rough patch because almost 25% of the pesticide industry vanished because of the advent of GM seeds. We are not bothered about the kind of pesticides we are using, monocrotophos, quinalphos, etc., etc. But we are very bothered about one gene which has been proved to be very safe across the world. So which is unfortunately the irony of our agri system. If we allow GM and if we go for hybridization of critical crops, and if we have 50% penetration, adds 124,000 crores to the sector. And if we have 100% penetration, 2.5 lakh crores can be added. Right fertilizer mix. So urea consumption is rampant. It's an old story. It is the biggest consumer of taxpayers' money. Almost half of our subsidy goes on urea, heavily subsidized 36,000 crores. And unfortunately, just because other fertilizers have become expensive because subsidy has been reduced, there is an over-focus on urea. Farmers have started using more and more nitrogen, and that is hitting us badly and likely to hit future productivity of our lands adversely. You can see the ideal soil ratio was 4:2:1, 4 nitrogen, 2 phosphorus, 1 potassium. And current soil ratio 8.3:2.7:1. Now this is what any soil scientist would put is adding poison to the soil. This is the most conservative estimate that 8,500 crores can be saved if we use urea in the right proportion. What I am saying here is that almost one-third, almost one-fourth of the urea which is being used is being wasted. So nutrient-based subsidy, it is a great concept. It was brought in by the last government, and we thought that there will be a lot of action on that. Unfortunately, only part action has been there as far as potassium and phosphorus, that nutrient-based subsidy has happened. For nitrogen, it has not happened. Direct cash transfer, whether it is on the food side or in the input side, is a great solution for future. And I believe that this government, the kind of data they are gathering at the grassroots level, is considering of starting direct cash transfers, particularly in the input area. And there was a great kind of concept which was introduced 10, 15 years ago, that if you coat urea with neem oil, the release of nitrogen will become slower, and we can save 10 to 15% urea. Unfortunately, if no fertilizer company is interested in it because there is no incentive. Policy framework, another draconian law, APMC Act. It was started, great novel thing that we have to protect our poor farmers. Hindi films of the 60s and 70s were full of exploitation of poor farmers, and I think it was justified that time. Today, it is a very anti-farmer law. 30–40% of the end price is received by the farmers. And you can see here, there are so many people in the middle, particularly in fruits and vegetables. The number of intermediaries and number of times things change hand is amazing. And you can see the almost 70% of cost buildup happens once the produce leaves the farmer. This is the commodity chain. In today's time, it is redundant. One of the I would say, indulgence of modern retail when it came with a bang few years ago was modernizing this chain. But unfortunately, they failed because of this draconian APMC law. The farmers had to go through APMC, and most of the retailers today who are selling fruits, vegetables, etc., buy from the mandis, which means that they are also paying for the same chain, except for last 1 or 2 members in the chain. High spoilage rate, just because it changes so many hands, and because there is a big deficit in the warehousing capacity, there is a lot of spoilage. Some of the estimates made by BCG, McKinsey, is almost 23% of what we pay for perishables is because of wastages. So here also there are certain sparks which are there. Right to Bazaar is an initiative in AP. Suddenly, as soon as this happened, the farmers had the choice of coming to this bazaar and selling directly and eliminating at least 2 intermediaries. Their realization went up from 30% to 50–55% of the retail price. Similar experiments have started in Apna Mandi in Punjab, Kisan Mandi of Himachal Pradesh. Kisan Mandi for Himachal Pradesh is mainly for fruits. It was started for apples. and Apna Mandi in Punjab is largely for vegetables. I hope that this progresses and government does something with the APMC Act. Restructure FCI. You must have heard something about FCI from Mr. Ashok Gulati yesterday. So there is a procurement side inefficiency and there is a distribution side inefficiency in what they do. Procurement is mostly focused on wheat and rice. The big problem is just because the price is secured, everybody grows wheat and rice. Nobody wants to diversify. To top it all, a lot of discrepancies. Punjab and Haryana grow so much of rice and produce nothing. So it is stored there and it is consumed in South and East India. So they don't have storage capacities, so they store it outside and lose a lot of it. The other big problem is that you can see 18% of food grain production is in East. Only 7% of the storage capacity is in East. So there is storage imbalance also. So restructuring FCI is a very big thing. I think government is very serious on that, going by the recommendations. They have also recommended that some of the states like Andhra Pradesh, Haryana, Punjab should take the responsibility of procurement and government should not get into procurement, which will be 75% of their problems will be gone. Now, after this, we looked at a lot of other data and I think there was a great revelation. We have 37 state agriculture universities. And I'm sure 20,000 crores, 25,000 crores is spent on that. Agri-universities have three main components: research, extension, and teaching. Most of the money is spent on research and extension. So we put a check that in last 20 years, any university which has not produced any variety of plant or animal which has not been commercialized should close their research department. So 35 universities will have to close their research department. Most of the varietal improvement, most of the new hybrids, most of the animal improvements have all happened in the private sector. The big problem has been our weather. I think I've always said that God is a very key player in Indian agriculture. This is the inflation we have seen because of weather conditions. 80 rupees to 20 rupees. Sometimes we win, sometimes the farmer win, but not a good situation to be in. So all this can be easily done. Prime Minister has already talked about it. There is a department in government which has been activated to do this satellite imagery of cropping areas. Same type of satellites are used by Europe and America to make crop estimates. And I think one of the big things can be the futures market. And I think once the farmers, like in developed world, have visibility on what the price is going to be, I think it can be a great input to our Indian farmers, and the price discovery mechanism can be built through the future markets. And risk capital for this sector, you all don't invest. This is the private equity investments in the country and private equity investment in agri, 4.1% out of $8.1 billion. We are to be blamed for this because if you remember, name of agri investments was sullied in the early 2000s by so many teak plantation schemes, so many Ponzi schemes which had come. But now I think this industry has several credible entrepreneurs, and I think Latin America is one great example. I believe India will go the same way because there are specialist funds which have come, which fund forestry, which fund agriculture, which fund storage, warehousing, etc. So in a nutshell, this is the 9 things which I have said, and I think this can be, I think some effort is there in all states at certain government levels in all these areas.